Oops, I messed up. My very talented blockchain archaeologist recently scolded me for making a fundamental error in my first video about Revenue Procedure 2024-28. In this video, I'm going to correct the record in three ways. First, I will explain why I made the error, which is important to understanding how the law applies, and because I don't want anyone else to make the same mistake. Second, I will identify and correct the error in applying the law. Third, I'll make some practical suggestions as to how to implement this strategy using the wonky tools that we have available to us now. If you didn't watch the first video, the following might not make a lot of sense, so be sure to visit the link below to reach it. So with that, let's get into it. I made an error in my explanation of how to apply the specific unit allocation method of the Rev Proc to your current wallets. That explanation starts at minute 7:16 in the first video. What I failed to understand was exactly who this Rev Proc was speaking to and what their tax situation looked like prior to 2025. In most cases, not all, the people most affected by this are active traders who used universal allocation to move their basis around prior to 2025. Remember my sticky note example in describing basis? These traders benefited by moving their sticky notes from the crypto in wallet A to the crypto in wallet B at tax time. That was not at all illegal, but it did create some funky results. Let's take an example. Prior to 2025, the taxpayer, let's call him Trader Joe, was aware that he could move the basis from his high-cost coins to his low-cost coins under the universal approach. Joe has two wallets, a Ledger wallet and a Treasure wallet. Joe had one Bitcoin in the Ledger wallet that he wisely bought on January 1st, 2017 for, say, $5,000. Joe bought one Bitcoin on January 1st, 2022 for $50,000, which he put on his Treasure wallet. Joe sold one Bitcoin from the OG Ledger wallet on February 3rd, 2023 for $75,000. Not crazy about using his low Ledger basis to report the sale, Joe instead moved the $50,000 basis from the Bitcoin in the Treasure wallet over to the Ledger wallet sale to calculate his gains. At the end of the day, Joe paid tax on $25,000, not $70,000 worth of gain. Pretty neat. Here's the problem. When looking at his situation after the sale, Joe had 0 Bitcoin on his Ledger wallet, but there was still a $5,000 sticky note sitting around with no property to attach to. This is what some commentators refer to as orphaned basis, which isn't an official term but describes the concept pretty well. On the Treasure wallet, you have the opposite situation. There's still one Bitcoin sitting there, but mathematically its basis was stripped away to allocate to the Ledger Bitcoin sold. In other words, there's an orphaned asset on the Treasure. Keep in mind that the blockchain itself doesn't care about your basis. These concepts only live in tax reporting software or accountants' spreadsheets, but they are important to understanding the revenue procedure. The term the Rev Proc uses to refer to our orphaned ledger basis in this example is unused basis. So, put another way, the government said, "Go forth and find ye unused basis, match it with a like asset in a reasonable manner, and calculate your tax on a wallet-by-wallet, account-by-account basis going forward." You see? Simple. So here we are in late 2025. What should you do with all of this information as a practical matter? Well, like I said, the tax tools we currently have to calculate this stuff are not that great out of the box. First, in my limited experience, they are prone to mistakes in doing any allocations correctly, whether on an account-by-account basis or otherwise. Second, they usually default to FIFO, which may be a good or a bad thing depending on your circumstances. Here are my suggestions. I use Coinly to do my crypto tax reporting. It offers account-by-account calculations already and is pretty user-friendly. You do have the option to manually change your basis in any given record, but I would be very careful about doing so without first matching all your trades and then backing everything up before you start playing around. A better alternative is to download your data to a spreadsheet, then track your coins and basis there. By the way, I am not sponsored by Coinly or anyone else, I just like their product. Next, use the tools that you have to get the best tax result. Forecast your gain and loss using the FIFO, LIFO, and the specific unit allocation methods and see how it shakes out. Happy calculating. So that's it for my corrective video on Rev Proc 2024-28. As before, if you enjoyed this video or if you heard any more blunders, please let me know. In the next video, I will be getting into everyone's favorite form, the 1099 DA, so be sure you're subscribed and have that bell icon blasted to be notified when it drops. I'm Ari Good, blockchain lawyer. Thanks for watching.